Eye Contact, a Mark Manning Mystery, Book 2. Author, Michael Kraft. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media, New York. Narrator, Eric Ost. A few minutes before 6, Manning gets out of the cab with Arlen Farber at the steps to the planetarium. The parking lot is deserted, the building dark. Manning bounces up the stairs and rattles the main doors. He asks Farber, "Can you get in?" Farber trudges up the stairs behind him. Lugging the computer case, he rattles his neck chain and says with his Zarnick accent, "A man in my esteemed position is accorded total access." Arriving on the top steps, he sets down the case and slips a key into the lock. Opening the door, once inside, he taps the security code into a touchpad, then locks the main door behind Manning. Without its usual cues of gabbing tourists, the vaulted lobby seems unnaturally quiet, like a sanctuary they have invaded. The terrazzo floor, freshly waxed, lends to the place the smell of an empty school. As Manning and Farber cross the lobby toward the back hall's stairway, their footfalls reverberate between the hard floor and the high ceiling. Rushing up the back stairs, Manning says, "This place is dead. There doesn't even seem to be a janitor on duty. Everyone must be down at the stadium." "We're watching the ceremony on TV," adds Farber, sipping a stiff one. "He hasn't had a drink all day." In the upstairs hall, on the way to Zarnick's lab, Farber breaks stride long enough to drop some coins into the vending machine and pluck up a can of Diet Right. He scurries to catch up to Manning, arriving at the red sign door that has a lock, but no knob. Manning takes the computer case, allowing Farber to juggle the cold soda can with his keys. A moment later, they step inside the lab. All is still, absolutely quiet. Farber switches on some lights, and their fluorescent hum seems amplified in the silence of the room. As Farber closes the door, Manning crosses to the desk and sets his case on it. Then they both meander cautiously about the lab, taking care not to trip over the thick black bundle of cables that snakes across the floor. Making sure they are alone, Manning says, "We'll be just fine here for a while. Can you tell if there have been any visitors since last night?" "Looks the way we left it," Farber answers, visibly relieved. Then a sparkle lights his eye, the first such expression Manning has seen from him since the events of last night. Farber suggests, "How about a drink, Mark? There's some Jack in the desk." Manning is tempted. "No thanks, Arlen." Manning smiles. "I've got work to do. But you go ahead. Rough day, huh?" Farber just shakes his head. There's no need to answer. He crosses to the desk, sets his soda on it, and opens the big bottom drawer, pulling out a glass, a used jelly jar that he finally remembered to bring from home, and a 2-liter jug of Jack Daniels. He pops open the can, a piercing sound in the quiet, hard-surfaced room, and pours his cocktail, half booze, half soda. Bitsy bubbles of carbon dioxide rise through the glass, hissing from the surface. Then a much louder noise makes both men jump. At 6 o'clock precisely, Manning checks his watch. The banks of computers stacked throughout the room power up in unison with a clicking, a whirring, a flashing of tiny lights. "I hate it when that happens," says Farber, who has spilled some of the whiskey he was pouring. He dabs it up with the grimy handkerchief he carries. "Geez," says Manning, "is this what you were describing back at the hotel?" "Right. That's how it always kicks in, when you least expect it, but it won't stay that loud. In fact, you can hear it settling down already. It'll just drone on like that till it shuts itself off. Sometimes it lasts a few minutes, other times hours." Farber picks up his glass, wipes its bottom, then drinks a long slug. He sighs, contented at last. Perplexed, Manning walks around the various stacks of equipment, all of it churning busily, thinking electronic thoughts, performing intricate calculations for unknown purposes. What's it doing? Clearly, all these computers are linked and working as one. The foot-thick bundle of cables is evidence of that, also its surface. To assume that the computers in Zarnick's lab are somehow related to the Sky Show. Nathan Kane was behind the setup of both, but the last piece of the puzzle is still missing. Manning needs one more clue in order to fathom Kane's motive. He needs to think, really think, and the way he thinks best is through the process of writing. "Excuse me," he tells Farber, returning to the desk. "Do you mind if I sit here? I need to work on another story. With any luck, this one may get through without being intercepted," he mumbles. "It's worth a try." Already unzipping the case, setting up his computer, modem, and cellular phone. "Be my guest," says Farber, moving away from the desk with his drink. "Okay if I watch the tube while you work?" "If you keep it quiet," replies Manning, opening folders, spreading material on the desk, digging crumpled notes from the pockets of his blazer. Farber wheels the large television monitors, the one on which he displayed the graphic realization, to the far side of the desk and switches it on. He also turns on the VCR, using it to tune various stations, which flicker in sequence on the screen. Most of the channels carry coverage of the event at the stadium, regardless of the channel, though the picture is quartered by the thin white lines of the crosshairs. Farber still hasn't figured out how to get rid of them. Manning glances at the screen and notices the crosshairs. He laughs. "I can't believe I almost fell for that." "Live and learn," Farber tells him, swigging his Jack and Diet Right, settling on a station that shows dancers at the stadium performing a surrealistic, pagan-looking tribute to the dawn of a new millennium. As the camera pans away from the stage, it shows the face of people in the audience. Most of the crowd in the stadium can be seen only as a blur of humanity. But the rows nearest the stage are clearly visible, and there sits Neil with Roxanne and Claire, intently watching the dance. Manning's eyes was first drawn to them because of the empty seats around them, conspicuous in the tightly packed arena. But then he saw Neil's face, and Manning choked on his own breath. He longs to earn back Neil's affections and can't fathom the pain of a prolonged separation, let alone a permanent one, when this is all over. As the camera swings to the stage again, Farber pulls up a chair, plops into it, and sets his drink on the edge of the desk. Manning's attention is now focused on the screen of his laptop, where a message confirms that he is online with the Journal's newsroom. At least, that's what it says, but he has no way of knowing whether this story, like the last one, will be waylaid. He slugs his news story, Hijinks 2, and assigns it highest priority. He pauses before he begins writing, wondering what tone to take with the story. Since he doesn't know the outcome of the mystery he will write about, but can only expose those facts that have become known to him, he hopes to involve his readers in the active process of working out the puzzle. This will not be, he recognizes, a conventional piece of journalism, so he decides to write the story in the first person, as if thinking aloud in a diary. He positions his hands over the keyboard and begins. "I am Mark Manning, a reporter for the Chicago Journal. 10 days ago, I began investigating the claims of Dr. Pavo Zarnick, who announced his discovery of a 10th planet in the Earth's solar system. As this story unfolded, I learned not only that there is no such planet, but also that the man claiming the discovery is an actor. Even more disturbing, I learned that the instigator of this deception was Nathan Kane, publisher of the Journal. Last week, Kane murdered Clifford Nolan, the Journal's esteemed science editor, as he attempted to expose the Zarnick ruse. Last night, Kane murdered David Bosch, another colleague and a friend of mine, mistaking the young reporter for me. The motive for Kane's treachery is still unclear, and I am frightened not only for my own well-being, but for the safety of a city that has trusted and revered this man. As I write these words, I am in hiding. While this great city revels in the opening ceremonies of Celebration 2000, I have taken temporary refuge within the laboratory of Dr. Pavo Zarnick at Civic Planetarium. Here with me is Arlen Farber, the actor recruited by Kane to impersonate the famed astronomer. Mr. Farber, fearing that his involvement in the scheme has placed his own life in danger, is now attempting to assist me in unraveling the conspiracy. Manning continues to write, detailing the events that have brought him to this moment, pleading with the public to come forth with clues to help solve the puzzle. When Zarnick's desk phone rings, Manning and Farber freeze, staring at each other. Manning motions for Farber to turn down the sound of the television, Then he reaches for the phone and lifts the receiver to his ear. Yes, he answers. Mr. Manning, asks a woman, breathless voice. Is that you? This is Lucille Herring. Miss Herring, he stammers, stunned that she has reached him, still wondering if she has played a role in the conspiracy. How did you? I'm at my desk in the colonel's outer office, she tells Manny. All business. I've been here since morning, digging through his computer files. Fearing he's been up to no good. Then I found your story, the original version, confirming my worst suspicions. The altered version was Kane's doing, of course. He's been intercepting all your work. As you suspected, he's also intercepted Cliff Nolan's expose. How? You both filed those stories by phone. He must have picked them up by phone. He could have done it from anywhere, but he wasn't here last night. I was. Manny asks, where is Kane now? At the mention of Kane's name, Farber reaches for his drink, needing renewed fortitude. Lucille Herring replies over the phone. He's somewhere in his suite of offices. He's been there for hours, but he hasn't logged on to his computer. I'd know if he had. I found something that might be important, Mr. Manning, but I didn't know how to reach you. I was scrolling through Kane's editorial directory a few minutes ago when I saw a new entry, Hijinks 2, pop up on the list. I opened your story, reading as you wrote. When you mentioned being in Zarnick's office, I had no trouble locating the numbers in the crisscross. She explains, referring to a directory used by police reporters and other investigators. Most resourceful, Miss Herring, says Manny. What have you found? Some peculiar email, she tells him. Tons of it, in fact. Sent to someone named Buckman? Who's Buckman? Says Manny, thinking that the name sounds familiar. Buckman, echoes Ellen Farber. He's that fat-ass zealot with the CFC. Manning grabs his steno pad, uncaps his pen, and clears some space on the desk so he can take notes. Brushing aside the scraps of paper that he earlier removed from his pocket, he says into the phone, Let me get this straight, Miss Herring. Are you telling me that Nathan Kane has been in contact with Elder Burlington Buckman, board chairman of the Christian Family Crusade? That doesn't make sense. Kane has always been palsy with the Archbishop. He and Buckman move in two different worlds. Manning absent-mindedly picks at one of the crumpled notes, flattening it on the desk. Lucille Herring's voice says over the phone, I don't know who Buckman is, but Kane has been sending him weird email. Listen to this one. Sent yesterday. Urgent errand at Mid-America site. Later today. Serendipitous clue at lunch with Brad and Carl. We'll detail at our nightly meeting. Maybe late. Schedule is firm for tomorrow. Green switch at 1800. Pink at 21. God bless America. As Manning ponders the improbability of such an alliance, he glances down at the note he has unfolded, recognizing a corner of the acid green Zaza logo. On the night he and Neil had dinner with Carl Crichton and Roxanne, Manning wrote notes on these scraps torn from the paper tablecloth. He opens and flattens more of them, of course. There are repeated references, and Manning's own handwriting, to Carl's inquisition by the CFC. Carl was mystified as to how the CFC got wind of his impending appointment as Deputy Attorney General. He had confided the news only to Kane, and yesterday, Carl lunched with Kane and the Mid-America Oil Chairman at the Central States Club. Manning mentioned his planned inspection of the laser projector to Carl, and Carl must have mentioned it to Kane. Good God, says Manning, talking both to Farber at his side and Lucille Herring on the phone. Nathan Kane has been conspiring with the Christian Family Crusade. I never believed it, but they're working together towards some common goal. Miss Herring, what do you make of that green switch business? It sounds as if there were plans to pull two coded switches. One at 6 to 9, the other at 9. It's well past 6 now. Nearly 7. I wonder if anything happened. Manning leans back in his chair, exhaling. Yeah, something did happen, he tells her. At 6 precisely, a shitload of computers went into action over here, and they're still humming away. They seem to be related to tonight's Sky Show at the stadium, which was also Kane's brainchild. Isn't the laser show scheduled for around 9? Lucille Herring asks. Yeah, you're right, Manning tells her. The pink triangle. The pink switch. Conceivably, The pink switch might simply turn the whole display on, but if the plan was that innocuous, there'd be no reason to murder Cliff and David. At the mention of murder, Arlen Farber is again on full alert. Manning motions for him to turn up the television sound. There may be clues to glean from the stadium event, Manning says into the phone. We have a couple of hours before this all comes to a head. Miss Herring, we'll do what we can at this end. Could you continue to dig through Kane's computer files, please? And see if there's some way to get my story uncensored down to the newsroom? Even as we speak, she tells him. That's exactly what I'm doing. The sound of her keyboard rattles clearly over the phone. Manning grins. Lucy, he says, you're wonderful. Then he asks, do you mind, Miss Herring, if I call you Lucy? Not at all, Mark. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.